You?
All right, so I'm going to get started here as we go. And hey, we're live now. I'll work out the Facebook Live thing in a minute here. But here we go. Everyone, my name is Colin Weston. I am the community leader for Startup Vancouver. Welcome to our second edition of What Keeps You Up at Night, Entrepreneurship During Challenging Times. I am going to go over to share my screen for a second, just do a quick little intro for some people. Just bear with me for a second. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that. So how's everybody doing? Everybody hanging in there okay? You know, it's a stressful time. That's why we decided to do the show with my co-host here, Maryam Mobini, and also Reza, who's also with us on Tuesdays. This is really the essence of this show. What's keeping you up at night? What's stressing you out? And also what's getting you excited about the paradigm shift that we're all in the middle of figuring out as we go as entrepreneurs here. So today we have some fabulous guests with us today. So we have Angie Schick, who is the Executive Director with New Ventures BC. And we also have Mr. Rivers Corbett, who I've had the pleasure of knowing through Startup Canada and the great work that he's done there. And the new entrepreneurial endeavors that he's embarking on that we will talk about also. So Startup Vancouver, you want to get a hold of us. Social media is where we hang out. So between Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even LinkedIn, you can find us there. Other thing I want to mention too, this is a free event to attend, but we are also part of with donations, and some people have graciously donated today. And that is an organization called jack.org, which is youth mental health wellness advocacy and what they do there. And at the end, and Maryam and I have been kind of fooling around with this a little bit, I am going to do a shout out for everybody that donated today at the end. I'm going to save that of what I'm going to do exactly, but you'll get a little something at the end of 30 minutes. So please stick around for that. So we're going to be talking to Rivers, who is the founder of Cheftorial. We're going to learn about all the good things he's doing there. But before that, Maryam's going to talk to Angie Schick, who is the Executive Director, as we mentioned, with New Ventures BC. So you'll have a chance to hear about not only with her, but also what's keeping those 200 competition entrants, all those startups up at night also. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'm going to hand it over to my fabulous co-host, Maryam Mobini.
Hey everyone, welcome to What Keeps You Up at Night, Entrepreneurship During Challenging Times. It's good to have you here, Angie, and I would like to thank each and every one of you. I'm deeply grateful for the strength of our community, our frontline medical workers and essential workers during this time. And I'd like to thank those of you who have complied with the physical distancing protocols to stay home and saving lives. It's really important to talk about how to manage change right now. And change is something that we're collectively experiencing, and not all of us are equipped to deal with change or acquire skills to deal with change. So Angie, I'm wondering how you and New Venture BC is managing change and finding opportunities in adversity at this time.
Oh, wow. That's a big question. I think like everyone, it's a little bit of a journey, but I think it became quite apparent to my team. We're a small team of about 3 to 4 people. It became quite apparent to us in early March that this was not going to be business as usual. So, you know, we kind of talked about it. We were like, well, do we host our events? Do we push forward? What do we do? And yeah, it became quite clear around then that we're like, you know what, we got to make a call here and just move everything virtual. So we kind of started that process and moved all of we do probably, I don't know, let's say 20, 30 hours of education between April and June every year. So we had to move all those virtual. We always had a virtual option, but a lot of it was in person with a networking component. So we've had to move all of that, and it's been an interesting process. And then what's next for us, you know, we've actually had a really good response in that we had 240 entries to the competition, so which is actually a record. So I think, you know, amidst all the stress of changing things, there was a lot of push in terms of clearly people want to do this program, and clearly there's some value here. So it kind of pushed us to make sure we created the, you know, the best virtual experience as possible. So, you know, we continue to move everything online. So I think we figured out a good process for all of our education. So where we are in the competition now is and for those who don't know, New Ventures BC, one of our programs is the annual New Ventures BC competition. So we're looking for the top tech startups here in the province of British Columbia. And hopefully along the way, it's a bit of a journey. You're getting education and mentorship and learnings for your company. But at the end of the day, for the top winners, there's $250,000 in cash and prizes. So, and it happens between April and September. So where we are in the competition right now, as I mentioned, 240 people entered. We now have about 200 people in the competition, and they've submitted a 5-page submission, and we're waiting for that to get judged. And June 1st, we will find out who our top 40 is, and then they'll be going through a series of pitches and mentorship programs. And that's kind of what's keeping us busy right now. These are, while there's always a virtual option, we also traditionally do a lot of these things in person. So we want to make it, you know, as seamless and as useful as possible. So we're trying to figure out how can we do, you know, a pitch session to the judges that's equally valuable, and how can we figure out meaningful mentor engagements and networking opportunities along the way. So that's kind of what's keeping us busy at the moment.
For that, have you noticed or heard from any of the entrepreneurs if they, because of what's going on right now, because of COVID, that they've pivoted their business model?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, you kind of hear various things. So I would say we kind of did a scan of all the entries, and it seems like there's about 5 or 6 that are doing something related to COVID. So they clearly have come up with, and I think that's, you know, when you look at the situation, they've come up with a business idea that can help. So we certainly have companies that have really kind of either pivoted or turned to using their technology to find to help or to solve COVID. And then we also run a job grant program with the provincial government, and that job grant program, it's for any tech company here in BC who wants to hire a post-secondary student, and they can get up to $10,000 of matching salary. So those companies, it's a bit more of a varied space, because a lot of the companies in the competition are startups. So they know how to pivot, they know how to look at their markets, they know they're quite early, and they don't necessarily have a big customer base. But a lot of the companies out of a job grant program, they're a little further along. They have customers, they have operations to run, and they've in various ways run into different troubles. Troubles or challenges. Some of the challenges are good challenges. There's a lot of science related companies who want to hire more students. But for others, they, you know, either without the grant, they can't hire students anymore, or they've had to just stop hiring because they need to, like any times, conserve cash, right? And figure out how the next 24 months are going to look like for themselves.
Back to anxiety, which is anxiety is a very common thing to feel at the beginning of all these changes. And I'm wondering personally, what tools do you have to overcome anxiety?
To overcome anxiety. So myself, I would say for me, I definitely function well on routine. So I try to, as much as possible, try to maintain a schedule every day that just keeps me on a good rhythm. And as long as I know what's next, then, you know, at least I kind of have something to hold on to that way. That kind of just keeps me moving.
I want to let everyone know that all the resources that you have mentioned are in the chat. And I have a lot more questions to ask you, of course, but I'm going to pause right here and let our guests to ask any questions that they have. And Reza, I'm just checking in with you to see if we have any questions. or anyone wants to like to jump in and ask Angie any question.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here. I failed to mention at the top of the show, yes, we want this to be interactive. We do have a Q&A box there too. If there's any questions that are out there, let us know now. Or if you've got something quick, you can put your hand up and we'll happy to give you a shout out and we'll read your question for you. So yeah, Reza, is there anybody there that has a question?
Yet, but I'm trying to engage our audience as much as I can. I also ask the audience to participate and tell us what keeps you guys up at night. Definitely put it in the questions and in the chat. We're going to throw it in there.
Good stuff, and we'll have you read those at the end. So, so right now, any questions for Angie and all the good things that New Ventures BC and the 200 entrants that are in round 2, looking to break into round 3 in the next couple of weeks here? Any questions for Angie?
Since no one's asking a question.
There we go. Go ahead. Why don't you ask one more question here, Maryam, since, yeah, go for it.
Wondering if you've seen any increase in female founders applying to the competition this year?
That's a good question. We've been working on, you know, highlighting diversity for the last few years. It's pretty important, and I think it's equally important. We have a really big volunteer base of judges and speakers and mentors, and we really want that to be, you know, representative as well. So I would say typically, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say we have about 25% of the founders are women this year, which is, you know, not, I wouldn't say it's not 50-50, but it's definitely, it's up about 10% from last year. So it's on the upward trend. It's not a huge jump, but it's something we're trying to do that I think will help bring up more founders, as we're really working hard to find more, you know, even more female judges and mentors. Just, I think diversity just gives you a diversity of opinion, you know, and I think it can really, there's nothing bad that comes out of it. So we're really trying to make sure we have a really, really balanced jury pool and mentor pool. And I think that will hopefully over the years reflect on more female founders coming out.
And we do have one question here before we
Yeah.
jump over to Rivers here. We do have one question from Dennis Asimov. Says, to Angie, what advice could you give to startups starting or pivoting during these times, especially super early stage companies?
Super early stage. Well, I mean, I think the principles of starting a company, even in these times, don't necessarily change. Like, you still need to think about what your market is. You need to think about what you're building is going to solve a big problem. And I think there's a lot of work that you can do to validate your idea. And, you know, no matter what, that's always number one. So we recently did our startup sprint seminar series, and you can watch the videos off of our website, and all sorts of information there if you're a really early stage, just to get you started. I mean, all the talks are good, but someone like, if you go to, say, Mike Volker's talk, which is again one of the talks that was linked, he's an angel investor, so he'll be talking to you from both a startup perspective but also an investment perspective. And what the general message is, that while, say, investment has slowed down a little bit, there's still investment happening for the right opportunities. So I would look at those types of resources. I would also, we have a program, an online program on our website called the Online Market Validation Training Program. And it's basically a free program if you're in BC online, and you go through it, and it's all about how to validate your market and your opportunity. And I think the fact that we had a record 240 entries this year, and that there's so much interest, just shows that in difficult times, often that's when great ideas come out, right? So I think it's a great time, especially if you're early stage.
Amazing. Thank you, Dennis, for the question, and thank you, Angie, for the response.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you, Maryam, for those great questions. I'm learning from you. We were talking last night about, you say, how about this question? I'm like, that's an amazing question. I got to copy all those questions, write them down, and now we'll apply those to our next guest, who is my good friend, Rivers Corbett, who is making this live stream a truly national endeavor, because he's coming to us live from beautiful Moncton, New Brunswick.
Yes.
4 time zones away. Rivers, welcome to the show. Welcome to our live stream here.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks, Colin. And it's kind of interesting that you talk about New Brunswick, and where I am is actually at half an hour away from Mount Allison University, which is where Bonnie Henry and I went to university together. And as you know, Bonnie Henry is your chief medical officer in British
Absolutely.
Columbia. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so small world. Absolutely. Very cool
Small,
to be here.
small world indeed. And I wanted to get you on here because of all the things you've done. I really do. You and I actually goof around a lot with the conversations we have. But to be serious, I really do truly look at you, Rivers, as one of my mentors in community building, in entrepreneurship. I've learned a ton
Thank you.
from you. I consider you a good friend, and you've been very supportive with me also in all aspects of life. And it'll be difficult to say to start where to go with you, but I want to start with the now, and that is with, and I've got right here in chat, I've just posted it, cheftorial.com. I love what you're doing there. And first of all, tell everybody about your background, who you are, and then about Cheftorial.
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. I was a founding board member of Startup Canada, one of the original 5 when Victoria and Cyprian started the business. I've had lots of interesting businesses along my journey, most of them colossal muck-ups, but the few that have allowed me to continue on allow me the opportunity to have a pretty good lifestyle. And I mean lifestyle, it's not just about money, it's about chasing what I want to have and forging my own way. I was the entrepreneur in residence for the province of New Brunswick. Proud to say the first entrepreneur in residence ever to be hired by a government agency in Canada. So that's kind of cool. And you indeed, Colin, you and I are brothers from another mother, man. It's you don't need blood to be family, and you and I are family for sure. So love being here. I was a Startup Canada podcast host for 3 years, and anyway, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good. And so, yeah, I think you wanted. Did you ask another question as part of that?
I did. See, as a
Yeah.
podcaster, I did the bad thing of asking 2 questions at once, which Maryam and I talked about last night. I said, don't do that, and I just broke the rule. So to pull it all back here, going to ask the first question here before you get into what you're doing with Cheftorial, and that is, what is keeping you up at night as an entrepreneur? What is causing anxiety for you before we get into the positive stuff?
The answer is nothing. And I mean that sincerely, because somebody asked a little while ago about, your advice for entrepreneurs. Well, entrepreneurs are made for this. This is nothing new for entrepreneurs, COVID. We deal with hurricanes, crocodiles, quicksand, and rainbows every single day of our life. And so to have this happen to us, I actually am extremely optimistic about the opportunities for entrepreneurs because of job losses. Finally, entrepreneurs are getting some focus. They are the backbone of the world. They will save the world. They are just under moms in the pecking order. And so I'm really optimistic about what's going on because of everything just leveling off right now. Entrepreneurs were made for this, and those people that get their head stuck in the sand, I'm sorry, you're not going to make it, because this is an opportunistic time period because everybody's starting from scratch. And so I'm really excited about what I'm doing.
I love that response. Well, that allows me to flip the script right into the next question there, from anxiety and what's keeping you up to what gets you out of bed every morning. What drives you? What gets you excited? And tie that into what you're doing with Cheftorial, which excites me. And I got to get going with that next week, you and I, to hook us up on that. So tell us about what excites you and Cheftorial.
Yeah. So, I used to, for the past 20 years, I've been providing chefs for the Sobeys grocery chain to do cooking classes in their stores, and have had a wonderful relationship with the organization. And because of COVID, the cooking classes stopped. But I said, oh my gosh, okay, what's out there now? What's changing? What's new? What's exciting? And 3 main things were happening. One, the chefs were out of work. So all of a sudden I had this huge amount of chef inventory I could tap into. 2, everybody was embracing online technology as a way to connect. And the third thing is that we've got a situation that home cooking is just taking off through the roof. And so all of those things said to me, why am I restricted now with real estate by going into the Sobe stores. Now I can do cooking classes for the world
Right.
because of all those things that are happening. So I'm really excited because I got a global opportunity right now because of this pandemic. I call it the greatest blessing that ever happened to me as a businessman, because I've taken this look and feel and have gone on and created Cheftorial. Cheftorial is all about live, online, interactive cooking classes with chefs. So think about having Oprah. She's talking to you. She's connecting with you. She's answering questions. The chefs do the same thing. They come on for about an hour and a half. We have two sections. One is a public version, which is like going to a concert. You buy a ticket, you come, you have your ingredients all lined up, and you work with the chef for about an hour, and then you go enjoy your meal. The second one is more private conversations with the chef. And what we're finding with that, Colin, is that organizations who are used to, they need to team build. They need to connect with their clients. They need to find ways. Girls' Night Out. All these organizations and groups of people who are looking for ways to network are now creating digital dinner parties to do what it is. So they make their meals, and then they hang out on Zoom for about an hour or two, of course, with their favorite beverage. And there's a business function happening also now, which is not existing right now, which is critical to business moving forward. So all of that is about Cheftorial, which is a play on tutorial.
Love it. Love it. Now, of course, you've been working with me. You're putting it out there with Cheftorial as you were developing this as a beta, even before COVID-19 hit. So you were already hitting the ground running. So what have you seen? What type of spike have you seen since people have been, living like we have for the last 9 weeks? Have you noticed a real bump in people actually getting on your platform? Have you seen a spike? And also, are you then tweaking or pivoting or recalibrating your offering, just like Angie has done with their online webinars and workshops like they've had to do?
Yeah.
So what are you noticing kind of post-COVID?
Yeah, so I think Angie hit right that there's I think there's like any startup, the principles are still there, and it's about awareness. It's about creating traction. It's about creating interest. So getting people to participate. It's not just because you show up, they're going to show up. That's not the way that it works for me. But in that, I always say, business, people don't understand. All business is you're in a laboratory. You're just trying to figure out a formula for success. And it's going on all the time. And there's no such thing as instant success. You're in a laboratory. Things are going to blow up. And so I'm in a laboratory mode of trying to figure this out. And I think I figured it out very quickly because COVID's afforded me the luxury to start talking to a bunch of people. And when you look out into the future, one industry that's going to be hit the hardest for the longest period of time are meetings, conventions, and conferences. They're going to suffer hard. Yeah. And so here, how do I serve them in a way that they can still do it? So they're moving to virtual events, but where's the social piece into this? So I've tapped into my niche for that is not necessarily the conference planner, it's the meeting planners, the event planners themselves that have all these people as customers, and that's my niche. Yes, we still do the stuff people can come in and go to an event and so on, but that thinking has evolved where I looked out to where we were going, not to where we're going tomorrow, but where we're going to be in the next 18 to 24 months. Online's where you got to be, and for me, the opportunity is in virtual conferences and meetings.
Love it. Love it. So I've got a couple quick questions here. We only have 5 minutes before we wrap up because the show is short and sharp. Scott asked the question, or first a comment. Love the concept! Exclamation
Thanks.
mark. There you go.
Thank you.
Is Cheftorial a subscription-based monthly membership site, or are you selling individual online courses?
Dude, it's a great question. And so that's one of the things that awakes me and I think about. Right now, it's a per event process or model, but I am entertaining a subscription-based model. It's a great question because I think there's, my life partner, she has a subscription-based business, and that's what people are buying into these days, is more subscription-based than the one-off. So it's a great question. We're heading in that direction. Thanks a lot, Scott. Appreciate that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Reza, you've been going through the chat? Are there any other questions for Rivers before we wrap things up here?
No, there aren't any questions. I'm still waiting for people to write their questions. I personally am very interested in the space of virtual conferences and what he's doing. So I'm getting a lot of value from this talk.
Nice.
That's awesome,
Nice.
Reza.
Well, I'll finish up with one question here before we wrap up here for Rivers.
Yep.
Rivers, you are, like you said, and I know you're a seasoned entrepreneur. I hate the term serial entrepreneur. That means you're kind of chasing around everything. You are a seasoned entrepreneur with the ups and the downs, and you're more than happy to put out there the things that haven't worked. Is there any couple pieces of advice, maybe doubling down on Dennis's earlier question, any advice you can give for entrepreneurs, especially at that early stage?
Yeah, I am going to give you one piece of advice, and it gets back to our, I'm sure you've heard the man before, Richard Branson, the guy that started and grew the Virgin Empire to what it is today. He asked a question to an audience once, and he said, what is the number one thing you can do for the success of your business? And I have asked that question numerous times to groups that I've talked to, and nobody is getting it right. Nobody is getting it right. And so, but he was right in his answer. And my answer is the same as his now. And it's my best piece of advice I can give to all of you entrepreneurs on this call. The number one thing you can do for the success of your business is to look after your health. That's the thing you got to look after. If you don't have health, you can't focus on cash flow. You can't talk up customer acquisitions. You can't do branding. You can't do any of that stuff because you don't have your health. Make sure you're looking after your health during this time period. And so that's my big piece of advice.
That's a great piece of advice. And we will be talking.
Mental health, right? Is part of that.
Absolutely. So mental and physical health. One of our guests next week is going to be talking about that. But as we finish up, tying in with the kind of the mental health piece, I did promise I was going to do a little shout out in my own little style there for our the people that have donated today. In fact, we've actually had one particular individual that donated today to jack.org for our cause here that we're supporting for advocacy for mental health with young people. So we're talking the last show that I was going to sing happy birthday to anybody that had a birthday on the day that we're live streaming here. We're going to twist that a little bit and do a little shout out for Dennis. And it's going to go like this. Nice donation by you. Jack.org says, thank you. You are awesome. Dennis has him off. Nice donation by you. There you go. That is going to become, that's becoming a thing every show. So if you want me to use this voice to shout out your name, make sure next time you donate to jack.org, or at least in the donation for Eventbrite and all that money at the end of the month. We've raised about $100 so far, and we're going to keep plowing along. So there you go. So with that, 1 minute left. So Maryam, why don't you wrap it up here for today?
Everyone for attending. I really appreciate you, Angie and Rivers. And we asked Angie a few questions as well in the chat, so you can have a look there. If you need to reach out, we have all the contact information in the chat that we'll provide for you. And we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Here we go. Thanks so much. All right.
Thanks
bye for now, everyone.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.